Hi Rebels, let's talk about how the Angelova Method is different than other types of trainings out there. Well, it is unique in the way that it approaches body and mind. And one of the most amazing things that will happen when you go through the program is you are going to become keenly aware of your body, and you are going to be able to leverage your body as an instantaneous feedback of your state of being. What does that mean? I don't have any gadgets measuring anything about me. I have my body and I'm super in tune for how my body feels. So let's take the physical aspect of training and talk about a couple of the things that are different in terms of Angelova Method versus regular training. So the work starts with your alignment. Are you aligned in space? Are you properly stacked as you're supposed to? What does your posture look like? Once we have the alignment, that is your standing alignment, that is also the alignment and engagement you need to maintain as you move. So what happens to your so-called box, powerhouse, whatever you want to call it, a rectangle, square, when you move? So if you look at shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, as you move, we should not see distortions such as, for example, this, or such as this, or one hip coming up, the other hip coming down. We want to maintain that box. You want to maintain a stable spine and a stable pelvis as you move through the power of a strong core. Now, I will tell you that I work with all sorts of people, from couch potatoes to athletes, and I am yet to find a person who knows how to properly engage their core. So big part of what we do is learn how to engage the core, learn how to properly kick in the right muscles so that when you move, you biomechanically move. The other part that is very different of this work is that we will target the deep stabilizing muscles. When we move, it is easy to access those muscles which are superficial, which are on the top. They're easy to get to, and quite a few of them are quite sizable. Now, on the other side, we have those deep muscles, and these are the ones that people are like, oh my gosh, I never knew I had that muscle when I discovered it, because they're deep and we're not used to or trained to properly discover and leverage and move through the leverage of those muscles. So I'll give you an example of the transversus abdominis. Look it up. It is a very deep abdominal muscle that is literally like a corset around your torso. It is a postural muscle, and it's one of the deepest abdominal muscles. So when we move, you may have heard the saying that crunches are not an effective exercise. Why? Because crunches access very easily the superficial muscles, the ones on the top, but they do not go deep. So through our work, we are discovering these deep muscles, which is why also when we first start working out, the workout does not feel like a workout. It's more of an awareness state of being. So where is your box? What happens to your box when you move? Do you feel what happens to your toes, to your legs? What kind of compensations are coming in? What's happening to the shoulders? Are you shrugging your shoulders? Things like that. First, we're in that discovery stage. So we want to create the awareness, we want to create the alignment. Then we stack on top of that. That's when we create the balance, the stability, through finding those stabilizing muscles, so that when we move biomechanically correctly. Then we start getting into the workout, which those couple of stages, traditional workouts, they miss out on those. They start right here. So if you don't know how to properly move and you go to the gym and you feel worse, perhaps that is why you are not moving properly, which is also why the work, the Angelova Method, delivers such tremendous results in terms of postural improvements, in terms of reductions of aches, pains, increasing mobility, and so forth. Now, let me quickly address something else. So the Angelova Method, a big baseline or foundation of the Angelova Method physical aspect is Pilates, Classical Pilates. That is also integrated with functional movement as well as fascia release, which is connective tissue type of release, type of movements. All of them come together to balance out your body. a big piece of what we're doing is creating mobility into the body. So for example, you have a prior injury, or you're constantly sitting, and because of the sitting and you're not properly sitting, you're becoming super stiff. What happens is compensations start taking place. Compensations over time start wearing and tearing our body prematurely. So we want to get rid of those compensations. The other thing that we want to maintain that we don't really think about is we want to maintain a flexible spine, a decompressed spine, as well as decompressed hips. So what does that mean? So a flexible spine is not one that moves like, I call it like a rod, right, as one piece. It's one that can move vertebrae by vertebrae, articulate, that's what we call articulation, and it has the ability to do so. So the type of work that we do increases the mobility and the flexibility of the spine. Decompresses the spine. Why? Because we're just going to imagine for a second that my fingers are vertebrae that are stacked on top of each other. When we are young and strong, there is space between our vertebrae, and there are nerves that go between the vertebrae, right? And what is our spinal column? It protects our nervous system, right? So as we age, as we slouch, what happens is the vertebrae start compressing, and perhaps you have sciatica, let's say. If that pressure starts putting on the sciatica nerve, you might feel that, aches and pains, kind of like when you hit your elbow, funny elbow type of feeling. So when we're creating a strong core can keep the spine nice and long so that we can create space between the vertebrae, which keeps the spine decompressed. There is no compression onto the spine. We do the same thing on the hips. I mean, if you're sitting all day long slouching, that doesn't even feel good. Your likely hips, and some people are like slouchy into the chairs, slouchy when they're into the car, slouchy when they're traveling, or even slouchy when they're standing. Pay attention to how you stand. When you stand, are you kind of like sinking into your joints, or are you nice and lifted? We want to decompress. We want to take the weight off. So if you think of the big bone that is in your thigh, the femur bone, it has a head, and that femur head, so we have the femur and then the head of the femur, it goes into the hip socket. So if there's compression, when that leg moves, it's rubbing against that hip socket. Not good, wear and tear. When we decompress the hip, now we can have mobility into the hip without causing damage. The other thing that I encourage you to check out is how mobile are your hips? Are your hips able to open up? Are you able to extend the hips? Most of the times we are in flex hip because we're sitting. So I encourage you to start paying attention to those little things, because those are the things that we ensure that you're able to functionally age. Which means that you'll be able to get out of bed, get in and out of the car, continue running, playing golf, playing tennis, whatever it is that you do CrossFit as you age without aches and pains. Now, sometimes I have athletes who are very strong. Two things: they are not strong in the right places, there are compensations, and they're super stiff. A stiff body is not a healthy body, because if you, let's say, slip and you're stiff, what can happen? A muscle can pop. You definitely don't want to do that. Now, you might be on the other extreme where you're hypermobile. Hypermobility is not healthy either. Why? Because yes, while you might be able to impressively do movements, if you do not have control over how you move, you might throw something out of balance. So the goal is to create a balanced body. One that has strength, flexibility, there's control of how you move, and there is endurance. Yes, those are all key for aging well. Now, if you take all of that and translate it into mindset, pretty much Rebels translates one-on-one. Are you aware of why you act the way you act? When something happens and you get triggered, you get fired up, you get reactive. Why is that? Have you ever paused and thought about it? We have something called the conscious mind, which I say it's like the top of the iceberg, and then the subconscious mind, which is the hidden part of the iceberg, the one that's underwater. We are conditioned to have certain beliefs, certain values by our families, by our community, by our teachers, by our mentors, and so forth. And that has happened throughout our life. So when something happens, you just react. Why? Because I call the brain, I call it your operating system. Something happens, it comes through our sensory system, it goes through the operating system, and the action, which is what you do or you don't do, is spit out. What if you had awareness of why you think a certain way and where there are opportunities to change those limiting beliefs so that you can change your thought process, you can change your emotional response, and therefore you can change your actions or lack of actions, which will then produce the results in your life. Baseline, awareness and alignment. Are you aware of your mindset? Is the way you act, is the life that you're living in alignment with who you are, with the person who you are? You guys, that is powerful, powerful, powerful. If you ask yourself, what do I want? And examine your life and check out the gap between where you are and where you want to be, that is the gap or the opportunity for creating awareness around the mindset. Because unless we are aware of the way we behave and why we behave a certain way, we just respond versus pause, reflect, and instead, I should have said react, and instead respond to life. Yes. And why is that impactful? Can you relate to a mind that goes 24/7? Can you relate to a mind that's constantly worry, doubt, what if? Can you imagine living life with a mind which is calm? Now, the reality of life is the mind is conditioned to go 100 miles an hour. So what the Angelova Method would teach you is, again, awareness, as well as tools that you have in order to quiet the mind. What will happen when you feel good in body and mind? What would happen when you're feeling energetic, confident, calm? What would happen to your life when you feel good? How would your life be different? How nice would it be to get out of bed energetic? How nice would it be to love to move? How nice would it be to move and feel amazing after movement? So amazing that you can't wait to do it again. How great would it feel to go to sleep and have a quiet mind? How great would it be to live a life of passion and purpose, a life that is true to you, that aligns with what you want, with a strong and flexible body and mind? That is the difference of the Angelova Method versus traditional methods of training. And the unique part of it, again, is that mind-body awareness that you will see a lot of clients say, man, I am so aware. The slightest tightness does not feel good. You know why? Because now you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to feel stiff and achy. I can feel amazing. And a lot of my clients are youthening as they age. They get off medications for pain. They start getting back into sports that they want to do. They start enjoying, doing things outdoors. They start feeling more vibrant energy, have more energy to hang out with friends. They connect with people who are positive. They start attracting a tribe of people who are elevated and consciously awake, aware. Yes? So that is the power of the Angelova Method. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to address those. I do hope this provides a quick overview and is helpful in helping you understand what the Angelova Method is and how it is unique and how it can serve you. Stay rebellious.